Welcome back to my channel, or welcome if you are new. Today, I want to try my hand at creating a tag. I know this sounds silly, but for the longest time, I thought that tags came from YouTube itself. I figured it was some list that they gave out to creators to help them with ideas for their channel, or that there was even an oligarchy on the platform in which these specific creators would create tags and then send them out to the masses, which is simply untrue. And for someone who's been watching YouTube as long as I have, I think that's a pretty big blind spot, which is why I find it funny. But shout out to Reading Black for creating the Black Booktuber tag and inadvertently teaching me that I can make a tag too. So, I have tentatively decided to call this the perfect fit tag. Most booktube channels rely on the same few prompts over and over again. Book hauls, rant reviews, wrap-ups, TBRs, including this one. They have become staples of this community. Yet despite most of these channels using the same basic prompts, we all have our own favorites, we all have our own preferred channels, we all subscribe to different people, and I would love to explore why that is. So I thought for this prompt, we could go down a list of the most common topics for booktube channels, choose a video that you feel it really hits the mark, really is your cup of tea, and explain why you like it. So I think this can be a fun opportunity to, one, shout out creators that we really love and share their videos, but two, start a discussion about how these topics became the backbone of the community and what new topics might want to introduce so our content stays original and interesting and, has the same type of fun for the creators and the audience as it did when it first started. So with all that being said, welcome to the first original perfect fit tag. So our first topic is TBR, or to be read. And for this one, I had to go with LGBTQ plus classics from around the world by The Artisan Geek. There are a number of reasons why I love this video. First and foremost, the title and the thumbnail match. There's no clickbait, there's no bait and switch, and even though I understand why it is a popular tactic for attracting views, this is not one of those videos that is relying on having a huge stack of books to draw people in. She goes through 8 books, I believe, from all over the world, very intentionally chosen to represent different cultures and different peoples, books that were originally written in English, books that were translated into English from other languages. You can tell she's very intentional about pronouncing their names correctly or to the best of their ability. And she gives a synopsis that doesn't reveal anything, but is in-depth enough to let me know that she has actually put in the time to research the book. It helped me decide which books I was interested in and which books that I wasn't. And she also added on the end why she herself was interested in these types of books. I, in general, don't really watch haul videos, but I clicked this one because I was specifically looking for more queer content to read, and it delivered on every single level. Also, this is something particular to her channel, but she always has on the cutest outfits and starts each video talking about where she got her outfit from and why she bought it from that vendor, whether it was because she was supporting a woman-owned business or a Black-owned business. But I really love this video, a lot of her videos, but specifically this one. So I would highly recommend that if you're looking for TBRs. The next prompt is book haul. So for this prompt, I chose 7 books I want to read that nobody cares about by Ariel Bissett. I remember the first time I saw this video, and it felt so refreshing. I'm pretty sure this video is a couple years old because this was long before I had a booktube channel, and I was already starting to feel that as a viewer, I didn't really have a place in the community because so many of the books people were reading fell into the same category. And I don't even mean category like young adult or fantasy, but it honestly felt like each month it was the same 20 books that everyone was reading. So one, to see a title from a big booktuber who acknowledged that she had interest in reading books that you may not see on other channels, and the books themselves, whether they're about George Orwell or Frida Kahlo or Yoko Ono, if you've been watching her channel for a while, you could tell they were very specific to her. It was a variety of fiction and nonfiction, autobiographies, memoirs, and even though I had never heard of any of these books before, so one might think it'd be harder to find the video interesting, her genuine excitement for these books and the ways in which she shared very specific personal reasons as to why she was hauling these, and acknowledging the fact that she actually had more books she wanted to talk about. I think she made 2 or 3 more videos about books I want to read that no one cares about, and I watched all of them. Some of them I even bought. It just felt so refreshing, which is odd when we have so many readers, and perhaps it was on me for at the time only following booktubers who had, I don't know, a certain number of subscribers. Like, I now know that there's way more diversity on the platform than I originally thought. But there's a really sweet, chatty, I was gonna say low tech, because there's, not a lot of editing, not a lot of fancy graphics. It honestly felt like being at a sleepover and your friend being like, hey, these are the books I bought with my like Christmas money or my birthday money, which, kind of touched on a nostalgic memory for me. The next prompt is a wrap-up. For a wrap-up, I decided to go with the 2019 book list from Julesy. Now, Julesy is a person whose channel is kind of a mix of different things. She has a Smart Brown Girl book club, she reads fairly consistently, but she also does videos on social commentary, pop snark, politicians, social justice, and I went with this wrap-up because Julesy is the only creator who I can say that for her end-of-the-year videos, I either have read a lot of those books or I want to read a lot of those books. And while I haven't read every single book in her 2019 wrap up, I want to. Like, I screenshot every single one, and it's a lot of feminist literature, womanist literature, racial justice, many women authors, femme authors. It is my perfect like African American woman studies class type text. And the downside of some of that, because I have bought some books on her recommendation before, is that some of them can feel a bit inaccessible, can be a bit challenging to read, which is why she created the Smart Brown Girl book club in the first place. As opposed to simply reading the books together, there are also syllabi that are created. They bring in experts to do interviews. I haven't signed up for it because, frankly, I'm such a mood reader. I'm a little concerned about feeling like I have to read a certain amount or show up for a certain Zoom link. But I love that she created a space where it's not just about reading the book together and having fun discussions, which is important, but also about making the books more accessible, more understandable, providing more context by hiring people to create these lesson plans and these syllabi and bringing in these interviews. And I'm very, very much looking forward to her 2020 wrap up. No pressure, because, we're all in a pandemic, but I hope she has read even more books this year because I always love hearing her opinions. The next prompt is Rant review. And I have to read this title off my computer or I'll probably get it wrong. This polygamous thriller had the worst plot twist I have ever seen. / The Wives by Taryn Fisher by Read with Cindy. This video is like 37 minutes long, and trust me, I never thought that a video that long could hold my attention, but Cindy comes through. I will watch rant reviews from her when I don't watch rant reviews from many other people because, one, she has receipts. I love seeing dog-eared pages. I love seeing book tabs. I love when she puts a quote up on the screen, when she reads a quote. I'm less interested in the rant reviews that just simply talk about their opinion about why it was bad. I need facts. I need backup. And on top of that, she has such a dry, sarcastic sense of humor that I think her natural personality lends itself to kind of taking the piss out of these books. And she's funny. So I just find her really, really funny. And when she does choose to add in edits, they're very judicious and kind of add to the punchline. I wish I could, think of like a Cindy quote or a comment that made me burst out laughing, but I will never forget that I was listening to one of these videos in my dad's office and he was like walking in and out doing a lot of work. And then he just stopped at one point and said, "Why is it every time I come to this room, this girl is yelling about something?" And I just found it so funny because I was just kind of like bobbing along, being like, "Oh no, she did what? They said this? That's wild. I can't believe." And my dad is like, what is happening? So if you like rant reviews, I would highly recommend Cindy's content. Of course, that's not the only type of video that she makes, but it fills a little spot in my heart. It is definitely a fun type of video to have on in the background when you're doing other things and just want a good laugh. Our next prompt, I would just call it a traditional review. I know there are rant reviews and rave reviews and this, that, and the other, but when I think traditional review, I think of reviews that are meant to be critical and in-depth and that are not simply about your personal experience of a book, but how you would convey it to someone else. And just because in my own brain, that's how I break things down, I think of reviews that if they put them in writing would be equally as compelling. So for that, I chose Death in Her Hands by Otessa Moshfegh from What Page Are You On? I actually found his channel because of that book. I read that book and I had a lot of conflicted thoughts, and so I searched it on YouTube, and I love this review. Oh my gosh, so many reasons. Isn't it interesting how it's so much harder to talk about things that you love than things that you hate? One of the reasons I love this review is because he gave a synopsis that was clear and concise, that was larger than what you'd find on Goodreads or on the back of the book, but did not get into any spoilers at all. He had also read other books by Moshfegh, so he brought in context from her other works. He brought in similarities, and I would say similarities and differences from her books like Elaine and My Year of Rest and Relaxation. And it actually wasn't until towards the end of the video we got into what his specific opinions were. And I felt that they were beautifully articulated. They were very specific. They backed it up with quotes and language from the text. And because he structured the video in that way, by the time we got to his actual opinions on the book, it was almost automatically supported by the way he had explained things ahead of time. Like, if he didn't write this all down, if this was all off the top of his head, I'd be even more impressed because it felt very streamlined and methodical. And I also like that he talked about theme. That's something I want to try to include in more of my reviews. Again, like, you have like the hard facts, you have the opinions, but I also feel there's somewhere in between where something in between where you talk about themes and motifs that are broader, larger topics that the author is trying to show in a smaller microcosm of this book. And Death in Her Hands, I think, has a lot of those themes. And I love that moment where someone is talking about something or explaining something, and I go, oh my gosh, you were totally right. Like, I didn't piece that together when I was reading it, but X, Y, Z, etc., that all fits. So I'm subscribed to his channel now. I'm glad I found it, and I'm looking forward to hearing more of his reviews. Our next prompt is bookshelf video. And this was probably the easiest one to do. I had to go with Books and Lala's video, 7 Ways to Organize Your Bookshelf. This must have been like a feat of epic proportions. I think it took her like 2 weeks. Like, it took a while, and she had to enlist the help of her husband. But basically, she reorganizes her bookshelves by rainbow in a diagonal, by height, by ranking, like 1-star to 5-star, by author last name, a combination of them. It was just so aesthetically pleasing to watch. And I love the way she filmed it too. She had the camera stationary, and the whole thing was time lapse of her and her husband putting together the books in all these different ways. And since I don't even have a bookshelf, this was something I watched solely for entertainment purposes and not so much to get tips. But afterwards, I felt like I had so many interesting ideas, and I loved how with each of the ways she organized, she said, here are the things I like, here are the things I dislike, this is what fits my lifestyle, this is what doesn't fit my lifestyle. And in the end, she had created kind of a combination that worked for her. Again, this video is I think a couple years old, so I have no idea if she still organizes her shelves in this way. But if you're interested in ideas on how to organize your shelves, I would say start with this video. I think she does an excellent job. And even if you don't have as many books as she does, because she really is a collector, I still think, her pros and cons list, and also, this is going to sound silly, but like physically watching someone go through all of that effort gave me a better appreciation for folks who have bookshelves, who keep them organized and keep them clean and, film in front of them in different ways. Again, I know how heavy books are, obviously, but because I have a weird haphazard system, it just never even occurred to me how much work it actually takes to be like, I think I want this to be by genre and then by author last name. But for authors who have the last name, then alphabetically by, like it's just, I think I have a greater appreciation for the type of organization and almost like interior design goes along with bookshelf tours. So that was my answer to the bookshelf video prompt. Next, we have Booktube Newbie tag. I know this sounds weird to include a tag inside a tag, but unlike the small booktuber tag, the old booktuber tag, the nonfiction tag, the black booktuber tag, like the Booktube Newbie tag is pretty, it's iconic, right? Like every single channel, I would be extremely surprised if not, almost every single channel did not have this video on their platform. So it felt weird to leave it out, so I wanted to include it. And for this one, I'm going to choose the Booktube Newbie tag by Joel at Fictional Fates. I really like this tag because it feels so professional. Because the Booktube Newbie tag is often the first video people do, including mine, or excuse me, the second video they do, I think we're still figuring out how to talk in front of the camera. We're figuring out our editing style, lighting, background, how difficult it actually is to film on your phone or film on equipment. But for this video, he just felt so natural and comfortable. I loved seeing his space. I loved his editing style, the font he used. I think he did a really good job of sharing his personality, sharing his reading style. I feel that one of the reasons that video is so good is because it's a true, accurate representation of his channel thus far, which is really hard to pull off when, if this is one of the earliest videos you make, you don't actually know what your channel is how it's gonna play out. But this one's kind of I think maybe a more personal one, because the Booktube Newbie tag is introducing a person to a variety of other persons. And from what I can tell, I like his personality, but overall, the editing, the filming, the tone, I just really, really enjoy this video. And our second to last prompt, I thought it'd be fun to kind of add some flexibility. And I'm just going to call this one the wild card prompt. You could make this a rave review. You could make this a reading vlog. You could make this a mini documentary. There are a lot of other videos that I think are common on BookTube, perhaps not as common as the one I spoke about. But for this, I wanted to shout out the Black Writers Matter series on the channel Books by Lanus. She does these short videos about Black writers and, books by Black writers, and kind of breaks them down into the 4 or 5 main lessons she's learned. She's done this for Audre Lorde, for Zora Neale Hurston, I believe, James Baldwin, but the one I want to recommend is the one about Malcolm X. If you have seen my Black Booktuber tag, you know that I chose the Autobiography of Malcolm X as told to Alex Haley as one of my books for the prompt, choose a book with a Black person on the cover. And when I found this video, it just reminded me of so many things I loved about the book. She's not in it. It's a voiceover showing different photos of Malcolm X throughout his life, scenes from when he was, or excuse me, not scenes, theater brain, pictures from when he's in jail, when he's speaking. It felt like it felt like the type of video I would have loved to have for all of the books I had to read in school. But in addition to the academic side, the research and the time and energy she put into it, I also, again, love when she inserted her own personal opinions about why she chose this fact, why it was so important to her, why she's glad she read this book. In a sphere, YouTube, that is a visual medium where so often the way someone's dressed, their background, their lighting, their makeup, all of these things can play into a person's perception of the video. It felt really nice and unique and refreshing to have someone say, for this series of videos, I'm going to take myself out of it. We're going to focus on the author. We're going to focus on the text. We're going to focus on the lessons that I learned from reading this book. And then my voice is going to guide you through that. And I felt like that was a really creative concept and one that I might want to play around with later, depending on the type of book. But I wanted to highlight that series and that channel. And finally, I think I'm most excited for this prompt. I would love to hear from you all if you do this tag, and if you do, please let me know. What is an idea or ideas that you want to bring to BookTube or you want someone else to do? Now, of course, the way my brain works, the first idea I thought of is something I feel I'm not qualified to do, but videos that combine books and visual art more consistently. Olivia at iLivy for Books has these really fun videos where she paints book covers and destroys them and deconstructs them. And I don't know, I love the idea of reading a passage, a really beautiful, well-written passage from a book to 3 visual artists, and then they have 30 minutes to sketch what comes to mind. And then we compare them and see how these 3 different people interpreted one piece of art, a literary piece of art, into a visual piece of art. Maybe I could do that one. I actually know a couple artists. I also would love to see more videos that are discussion based. When I made the Am I a Book Snob video, I was super insecure about it because I felt like it was just rambling and talking and it wouldn't be of much value. But I have gotten some really insightful, in-depth, slightly embarrassing, a little bit call out comments on that video, and now it's one of my favorites because I feel like I've actually been able to have a discussion with people in the comments. And I know not everyone likes to kind of put themselves out there and put their opinions out there, but I would love to see more videos like I'm not gonna say like that because that one could have definitely been better, but more videos in that vein that create a space to have those kinds of topics. Please take those ideas if anybody if anybody likes them. So that was my first attempt at creating a tag. This is the perfect fit tag. I tag anybody who would like to do this, whether you're subscribed to me or not, comment me or not. If you do it, please let me know. I would love to watch it. And I hope, again, like I said, this can be an opportunity to shout out some creators we like, and this could be an opportunity to have these types of discussions about who we are as a community, how we got here, and where we might want to go. Hope you have a good one.